I mean, I don't know if anything will happen, but all right. Let's get to what happened last night. Let's talk about the police raiding the anti-war encampment at UCLA.
We begin with breaking news and live pictures out of Los Angeles, where police are raiding an encampment of demonstrators on the campus of UCLA after a day of tensions. Again, these are live pictures coming into the newsroom at this very moment. The group protesting the war in Gaza had been warned to clear out, but many refused to comply. Again, we just want to reiterate, this just happened minutes ago. Police fired what appeared to be non-lethal rounds at some of the...
Bro, this is literally like, this is autocracy bullshit, okay? It's such a sad state of affairs. I mean, this happens in American history throughout times, but like this severity, this intensity, and this frequency is kind of new when you think about it. What do I mean by this? I feel like oftentimes like police show this level of like state violence when like students or people actually take it to a level where they're like taking fucking deans hostage and shit. You know what I mean? Which they did in the 60s. These are just kids sitting on the fucking courtyard of their public institution in public space doing a public demonstration with perfectly valid, reasonable demands that they are making from their own universities. And the fact that they have done no violence whatsoever, the fact that they've demonstrated perfect messaging discipline, perfect organizational discipline, in spite of the endless sea of attacks. This is how the university and the state responds. It's just so gross, man. And I'm really glad that not only did I attend the encampment, but also Brett was there yesterday and Morgan was there yesterday. Like, we can attest to it. We have actual footage of how these guys operate inside of the encampment. It's just objectively false to look at the situation and go, these guys are actually being influenced by outside elements. They are bad. They're wrong. You know, they didn't do anything wrong. They did everything right, as a matter of fact. So it's so sad to see. It's so unimaginably cruel. So sad to see that these guys are getting met with this level of response. I mean, this is beyond the Trump shit. Cops in every single circumstance are the ones who often escalate. Police presence is usually how riots happen, how riots unfold, right? We've talked about this quite a bit during the Black Lives Matter rallies that occurred all around the country, some of which turned into riots as a consequence of police retaliation. And even then, the cause for BLM was just. Obviously, nothing came of it, and it was very frustrating. And I think that probably kicked out a lot of people from ever participating in political action ever again. Having said that, however, they're just students sitting and not doing anything, not harming anyone. And for weeks, the media tried to desperately paint them as villains over and over and over again. We have regressed beyond the Trump era at this point. This 100% was not a riot outside of pigs rioting. The students were incredibly disciplined and peaceful. Yeah, it is crazy. The media kept saying they're terrorists, they're terrorists, they're terrorists, they're terrorists. The media kept showing the outsiders, the counter-protesters, the Zionist agitators that actually went to the encampment to fuck these kids up. They looked at that and salivated at the prospect that they could show it as a clash. Clashes are occurring at the Palestinian encampment. It's like, they didn't do that. Do your fucking job, journalists. Cover the goddamn news. Your job isn't to be a stenographer for the State Department. Your job shouldn't be to cut propaganda for America's allies, a foreign country, Israel. Your job is to report what you see in front of your fucking eyes. Very frustrating to me. Very, very alarming, very frustrating to me that they desperately tried to make these students look like the bad guys here for the crime of saying what Israel is doing is unconscionable. It is so frustrating. And they did not give them a single fucking opportunity. These students did not give them a single opportunity. They were better than any other organized protest I've ever seen. They demonstrated perfect messaging discipline. They demonstrated perfect organizational capacity. They made sure that agitators did not breach the camp. They made sure that there was no fucking coverage. They made sure that if you wanted to talk to them, if you wanted to hear what they had to say, what their demands were, that they had media liaisons, and reporters lost their minds on it. They were like, oh, this is very, very frustrating. And then what did they get for basically doing the textbook perfect protest? Peaceful, perfect messaging discipline. What did they get? Everybody lied about them. Everybody relentlessly lied about them, both in Columbia and also at UCLA and at CCNY and every other campus. They lied about them. They said they're anti-Semitic. Anytime Zionist counter-protesters tried to fuck shit up, they looked at that as an opportunity to claim that it was actually the pro-Palestinian side that was causing trouble. They said that they desperately tried to find any kind of, like, from the thousands of students that are out there, they desperately try to come and find and manipulate and abuse any kind of counter propaganda they could to frame these students as evil. In protests like this one, you are going to have people who say things that are unhinged. You're going to have people that say anti-Semitic things, as a matter of fact. Okay? It's going to happen. There's thousands of fucking people. You understand? The fact that they couldn't get a single person is incredible. Okay? It's unimaginable. It is always going to happen. The fact that they couldn't get it and then they still lied about it is disgusting, okay? The media's job is to basically look at this and go, here are the demands of the protests. Protests have been broadly very peaceful. Even if there are aspects of it that aren't, they're supposed to look at it and look at the percentages. The fact that they got 0% and yet still lied about it in an effort to galvanize some kind of violent military response from the police against these peaceful encampments is disgusting. And if you think that this won't come for you one day, you are in the wrong. I promise you. Okay? We have so many issues in this fucking country. The right and liberal Democrats alike are taking away more and more of your liberties. Think about the abortion conversation. This is an act against demonstration. Any kind of demonstration will be met with this violent response. And what's your job? My job is to serve the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour, Hamdaj 2001. That's my job. Yeah, there you go. Well, you're a mobile chatter. You must be. There's nothing more telling about the role of the police than this. Yeah, I have that ready to go. I'm going to cover it in a second. If you think the American government won't inevitably come for something that you hold near and dear to you, something that you take for granted, a civil liberty that you care about, you'd be in the wrong. Because the actions that are unfolding in front of our eyes are simply an extension, a continuation of the violent Trump-era suppression of protests and demonstrations against the state. If you think that both liberals and Republicans alike would not use this exact same level of violence against you for the crime of protesting against abortion, for example, you'd be in the wrong. They will gladly do it. They will gladly do it. I'm letting you know. This will come for you too. They frame Jewish concerns, the malign protesters, as harboring anti-Semitism. Why are we afraid to call out the framing of Jewish concerns that means to quash this protest? What do you mean? I've talked about that quite a bit, as a matter of fact. If they actually had concern for the Jewish students, they wouldn't be sending the fucking police to brutalize the Jewish anti-Zionist students and teachers and faculty members. It's just another fucking lie. What do you mean? Yes. All matter of communication around Israel as an issue is cynically done on the boundaries of Judaism, even though Israel's actions are anything but a representative of Jewish people, Jewish culture, Jewish history. It's not. Why is the media so hell-bent on favoring Israel? I get what the government is, but the media is independent. What do you mean? The media is not independent at all. The media just seems independent, so you think there's free speech, so you think there's free expression, so you think that there's a free press in this country. But no, of course, especially as it pertains to State Department propaganda. Are you kidding me? How independent was the media when they were championing the fucking Iraq war with lies that they repeated without ever demanding evidence? Mainstream media, corporate media, is completely bought and sold by the same capital interests that dominate our Congress, that dominate our everyday existence. Kevin O'Leary wants to make you a pariah for simply existing. Wait, what? Kevin O'Leary warns student protesters are trashing job chances by fighting police, vandalizing school. Yeah, cops are saying that they're going to clear Rutgers. Rutgers is going to use cops if the camp doesn't clear by 4 p.m. If the protesters do not comply and disperse, they will be considered to have trespassed and we'll be left with no other option than, with the assistance of law enforcement, to remove the protesters and their belongings. Of course, dude. Remember, another public institution is a state school. This is a public demonstration at a public institution. Truly surreal to hear campus protesters being called agents of Hamas, then see an interview with some kid named Bryce. Hamas doesn't even know about Bryce. Is such a funny take, yeah. I mean, it's true. There's nothing funnier to me than like Fox News basically being like, these gay ass, blue haired, woke, queer activists that are too scared of mean words, only to fucking turn around and be like, these gay ass, blue haired, queer activists actually are Hamas. They're agents of Hamas. We have to kill them. We have to kill them. We must kill them immediately. They are the IRGC. Oh, here. Media quickly claimed that the terrorist wife was a Columbia campus. Yeah, here is Layla Alarian, the daughter of the supposed wife of a known terrorist, spoke to us last night. So this was one of the grossest things, dude. This was one of the grossest fucking things. Like, this person has had bylines for NPR. This person has worked for Vice News, now works for HA Fault Lines. The fact that they just straight up are like, yeah, guess what, dude? This woman that attended the fucking encampment is the wife of a person who literally took a plea deal so that we couldn't torture him for 30 fucking years in Guantanamo Bay, is actually somehow a terrorist as well. That's crazy. That's actually a crazy thing. Once again, reminder that Nelson Mandela was on the terrorist watch list since until 2008. Okay? Oh, I think it's the sister of the person you're talking about. Oh, yeah. Layla Al-Aryan. Oh, wait. I think maybe there's another one. Yeah, you're right. There's two of them. Hold on. Here, let's just watch what she has to say. This is her mother, though. This is Layla's mother that they're talking about. Going full Alex Jones, my dude. Gonna do supplement ads at the top of the hour ad break. I already ran it.
As soon as I saw what you mentioned, the smears against my mother, and the fact that the media was just regurgitating it, you know, mindlessly, thoughtlessly.
Bro. For the record, I just want to mention something. Yeah, her dad was the guy who took the plea deal. Her husband is a professor at George Washington. Is very cool. So this woman's father took a plea deal to admit that he is a terrorist, right? At a time post 9/11, where if you were a Muslim and they got you, you're going to Guantanamo Bay and they're torturing your ass. Okay, so he doesn't want to fucking go. He doesn't want to go to prison. All the counts are dropped. Like, it's a textbook bullshit plea bargain circumstance. But let's say he is a terrorist. Okay, let's say he's not. But let's say her fucking dad was a real die-in-the-wool, radical fucking dude who was like caught making IEDs or some shit. What the fuck does that have to do with the dude's wife? What does that have to do with the dude's daughters? Is this how we operate now? Guilt by association? Guilt by lineage? What a fucking psychopathic attitude to have. That is crazy. Yeah. Also, yeah. Speaking of terrorists, Gustavo Petro, who famously cut ties with Israel as of yesterday. Fun fact, probably one of the most deserving ties being cut with Israel is actually Colombia, the country. When you think about what Israel's relationship with the Colombia, the country, was when Israeli weapons were killing Gustavo Petro's friends directly. Israeli surveillance technology was being utilized by the Colombian government to kill and surveil Gustavo Petro's friends. Now he's the fucking president. Just saying. But that's besides the point. We're not going to talk about that. Once again, I just wanted to mention something. The idea that like this works because like this woman who works for Al Jazeera and her sister who works for NPR and fucking Vice News, okay? These people are productive members of American society. To say, well, their dad's a terrorist because he took a fucking plea deal so he wouldn't be tortured endlessly in Guantanamo Bay makes them terrorists is insane, okay? That's insane.
I mean, this is clearly a really desperate attempt by Mayor Eric Adams to justify the horrific scenes we saw last night, which will be in the history books as a case of state repression and overreach in terms of sending dozens and dozens of NYPD officers to remove students from a building. Of course, we know there's this longstanding tradition of students taking over buildings and anti-war protests, but in this case, he decided to justify it by invoking my mother, a 63-year-old retired teacher who simply wanted to see this beautiful act of solidarity, this protest in support of the people of Gaza. She herself, her father was from Gaza. She's lost over 200 family members in the last 6 months in Israel's horrific and violent campaign in Gaza. And it was just this scene that really gave her hope and made her feel this sense of solidarity. And it's really shameful that the Adams administration used her presence during a very short time on campus in a disgusting attempt to smear these student activists. And
like, I can't, dude, it is so insane. It is so insane. I can't get over this. It's just pure post 9/11 Islamophobia. And it is being channeled by the fucking liberal mayor of one of the wokest cities, New York. Like, what the fuck? In order to justify brutalizing hundreds of fucking peaceful demonstrators at Columbia University because they did the crime, the gravest crime of all, saying like, yeah, Israel's doing some fuck shit and I don't like it. It is such a perfect demonstration of insanity. It's like the mania that we have, the fascism that we are experiencing right now at the behest of a foreign nation is so unimaginable, so flagrant. I don't know. I don't think you need to be a radical to see it, dude. I don't know. I feel like it's so apparent. And yet maybe I'm still the radical one. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is going on at this point. Like, it's illegal in America to fucking disagree with a foreign nation. Okay? You can't do it. We'll fuck you up. We'll kill you. It's like we looked at what Israel was doing and brought it directly here. And we're like, let's do it ourselves. Here's Aaron Mate. CNN's The Laura Coast just smeared Sami al-Aryan, whose wife apparently visited Columbia encampment a few days ago in solidarity as a convicted terrorist. This is a malicious lie. He was never convicted of terrorism. He was charged in a bogus case under the Patriot Act. Jurors did not convict him of a single count. When the prosecutors refiled the case rather than accept their defeat, he chose to plead and accept deportation rather than go through another trial. The prosecutors then extended his prison time by trying to force him to testify in an unrelated case. During his ordeal, he spent years in solitary confinement. He's a former political prisoner and a symbol of the very dehumanization of Palestinians that brave students are protesting. CNN should retract and apologize. Of course they won't, because he's fucking brown, dude. Like, his case, I looked into it, okay? I looked into it. His case is like one of those cases. His case is one of those cases that you watch 20 years later, like in a Netflix series of like the grave injustice that befalled the otherwise beautiful American criminal justice system. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah. We're still trying to reconsider. We're still trying to do the post 9/11 hysteria in 2024. And people are so goddamn geared. They're so, I thought personally that when, Dr. Oz, a Sunni Muslim dude who is like a very famous television guy, right? Guy, when he was running in a fucking state like Pennsylvania for the Republican Senate seat, I thought like maybe the Islamophobia stuff is no longer hitting as hard. Turns out, nope. It was just in our hearts. Okay. We were waiting for the best opportunity to bring that shit back. What is this? I was so wrong, dude. I was so goddamn wrong. Before a fever breaks, the temperature becomes almost unbearable to live through. This time for Palestinians and all other downtrodden people, the fascists will hurt us back up until the violence from imperial boomerang is insufferable for all citizens. Yeah. This is what I try to communicate to people, but I think in their privilege, they personally don't recognize that, like, These violent means have violent ends, and the imperial boomerang will always snap back at you, okay? A perfect demonstration of the imperial boomerang is what the Israeli citizens that were protesting against their own government in 2018 faced when they defied their own government, when their own government wanted to become even more reactionary, even more right-wing, even more religious as a theocracy, right? They were violently suppressed. I just want to point out something here. I've always maintained the position that America doesn't punish people like myself for silly things that I would absolutely go to jail for in a country like Turkey or in a country like China. And the reason why America doesn't, or historically doesn't punish people like myself until push comes to shove, is because of the power that it has. America can have free speech, theoretically, at least more free speech than America can have more free speech than other countries, specifically our foreign adversaries, because of the power that we have. And now that's changing. You should be very afraid that that is changing, because that's changing because these are the actions of a weak state, not a strong one. Okay? We are living in a dying empire. That much is clear to me, because the reality is, if we were a strong empire still, this kind of stuff would be nothing. First of all, Israel wouldn't be openly dog walking us on the public stage. And then we wouldn't be doing this to our own citizens at the behest of a foreign nation that it only gets to do all of the violence that we are currently criticizing with our taxpayer dollars and with our political cover. The brave students at Columbia and other universities have held a mirror to the face of the U.S. empire, says friend of the show, Jeremy Scahill. The state uses extreme force against its own children at home in a futile attempt to crush their dissent against the state's facilitation of a genocide abroad. We're becoming more and more gross by the second. Mr. B says, we raise our kids to be better humans than us, then act all surprised when they grow up and call out all the bad stuff humans are doing. I obviously don't want to believe that America is completely fallen. No, that was Mr. Beat, not Mr. Beast. That wasn't Mr. Beast, chat. What the fuck? Mr. Beast would never say a statement like that. Come on. It's so funny. This especially, okay? Annalise Orlek has been banned from Dartmouth campus for 6 months for trying to protect her students from riot police. She's the head of Jewish studies at Dartmouth. Historian Annalise Orlek. I don't know what to say. How is the media not showing this? You know what I mean? Because it absolutely goes against the propaganda that they're cutting. Showing a Jewish grandma who is the head of the Jewish studies department at the school getting brutalized by the American police absolutely goes against the narrative. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. That's my fucking mom. She's okay now and bailing out the students who got arrested. I'm so proud. It's a weird situation where Iran has the moral high ground on Sweden. Whatever shit Iran does is not complicit in genocide and therefore will always be morally superior to countries that support genocide. What a time to be alive. It's just like Iranian domestic politics is awful, except we don't have a leg to stand on here either, because we're literally channeling that exact same repression in our state as we simultaneously talk about how fucking awful the Iranian government is. Like, why are we desperately trying to behave like the Iranian government in our domestic affairs? It makes no fucking sense. There was that article that came out. America criticizes Cuba for long sentences given to protesters. Like this week, we yell about Russia all day, every day, and it's valid, right? It's valid. It's valid to criticize Iran for unimaginable state repression. Except, one, we as Americans have very little that we can do, okay, about Iran, I mean. And our actions in Iran historically are the direct reason why Iran is the way it is, but I won't even get into that. But it is hilarious that we're like, oh, dude, I can't believe they're doing awful shit in Iran to Iranian citizens. I say, while I simultaneously champion our government behaving in the same fucking way. Okay, well, you're an American in America, and the American government is literally brutalizing your fellow Americans for saying, what Israel's doing is kind of fucked up, isn't it? The fuck are we doing? It's really, really frustrating. So, yeah, Palestine Solidarity Encampment last night had beautiful sights of people showing solidarity, people peacefully protesting, people putting their bodies on the line against the brutal LA Sheriff's Department, LA Police Department, spending millions of dollars to conduct these operations against students who dare say Israel is in the wrong here. How dare they? You know? Bruh, it was an unlawful protest to blockade students from going to class and causing an unsafe environment without permits is unlawful. This chat is so stupid. Yes, you are the brilliant one. 5-month subscriber, following since 2021. Lever, October 7 lever who came back. You are the actual intelligent one here for stating that students demonstrating in a public space, okay, it's not even private, on a lawn that wasn't blocking anybody, by the way. That wasn't. I was there. The fact that you are basically that desperate to justify police action of this sort is sad, man. Really reconsider your fucking priorities. You know what I mean? Look at this. For months and months, you've been in here trying to learn. I go to UCLA. They didn't block anyone from going to class. They made people take an extra 2 minutes when walking to class. That's all. Yeah, it's not an unlawful protest. If that is an unlawful protest, every protest is unlawful. We might as well not have protests at all. You understand that, right? If that's all it takes for you to write off a protest, then there's no protest. I'm on your side just trying to gain perspective. Okay, but then don't come in here with like, you know, in a really aggro way and be confidently wrong. You know what I mean? What is more disruptive, I ask all of you? Bringing in hundreds of jackbooted thugs of the fucking state to beat the shit out of students who are like, yeah, what Israel's doing is unconscionable. Or the students actually peacefully demonstrating in spite of the many attempts of those who don't even go to UCLA coming in to beat the shit out of them for the crime of saying what Israel is doing is wrong. Think about that. Imagine comparing the Iranian rapes and murders of women that don't cover their hair to police shutting down a protest that was shutting down the school. Classic commie, fuck not understanding what a peaceful protest is. Wait, what? Brother, we are moved. First of all, Iranian rapes and murder of women that don't cover their hair. Ironic that you're saying this while simultaneously missing the point. I never said that that is a valid thing. Okay. I, however, do know that raping your prisoners was legal in the state of New York for the police until like 3 fucking years ago. And it's still very much legal in many states in this country. So if you have an issue with that, maybe you should take it up with your local administration, because ultimately we are American citizens and our tax dollars are funding the police force in this country. We have every right to say that what our police is doing to our fellow citizens is unacceptable. It is the American way. You are un-American. You compare U.S. cops to the shit happening in Iran is pathetic. No, dumbass. You're still failing to understand. It's pure copium for us here in America to say, yeah, the situation is bad, but at least we're not Iran. Yeah, of course we're not Iran, dumbass. We're America. Really? That's what you always compare it to? This level of argumentation is akin to your mother being like, well, you know, you're complaining about your current predicament, but there's starving children in Africa. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, I know. It's just a way to shut down any kind of demands that we should be making from our own government. It's copium. Why the fuck are you comparing us to a fucking theocracy? Like, that's insane. That's ridiculous. Do you not understand how ridiculously copium-induced this argument is? Well, at least we're not Rwanda. At least we're not Iran. It's like, yeah, we're not, dude. What is the point where you will actually stand against police suppression of free speech? Also, ironic, you did that comparison. No, you do not have critical thinking skills. I said we are going in that direction. We are moving in that direction. Also, it seems to me like you have an issue with police removing women's hijabs in Iran, but don't have that smoke for the Arizona police that actually did that in Arizona this past week. They removed the hijabs of Muslim protesters. But of course, once again, you do not understand. You do not have the capacity to understand. So you say, says you, like you're trolling. It's sad. NYPD did it to all the Hind Hall protesters arrested too. Yeah. It's crazy to me, man. It's crazy. And we're also having this conversation at the precipice of the American police departments all around the country, straight up brutalizing peaceful protesters for the crime of saying, I don't like what Israel's doing. That's crazy. That's a whole ass different foreign nation that we're doing this for. We're doing this to our own citizens. Ridiculous. It's goddamn un-American. Straight up. We have, at this point, in the immediate aftermath, arrested more people in these rounds of protests, peaceful protests, mind you, than we did during January 6th, man. That's what's nutty about it. It's just like, there's a reason why so many people felt comfortable revealing their name and identity while storming the halls of Congress. There's a reason. Because they know that the police are supposed to be their little warriors, you know? They're not supposed to ever come after them, so they can do whatever the fuck they want on the right. And they were in awe that the state actually came after them. The fact that liberals are now also comparing this to January 6th is unimaginable to me. Unconscionable. Blocking from going to school is peaceful. Why do you feel the need to lie about what these students are doing? You're wrong. Will you change? Will you admit that you're wrong? Will you admit that you're wrong? Like, will that change your perspective if you find out that, like, you actually were wrong? They weren't blocking people from going to school at all? Will that change your perspective? Lie? Question mark? No, I'm asking you a simple question. If you found out that actually students were not being, this is one question, yes or no. If you found out that students weren't being blocked from going to class, would you change your perspective on the protests at all? Once again, the bar for state violence should be unimaginably high, okay? These students don't need to be perfect victims for you to side with them. And yet they were, and you still aren't. So that's what I'm trying to find out here. Do you get it? You get what I'm saying? It's wild. There are clips. No, there aren't. The only clip that is being promoted on mainstream media is that Zionist counter-protester TikToker who's trying to make a career for himself, acting like he's actually being blocked, okay, because he's trying to go through the encampment. That's it. That's the only clip. I know. And I also, on top of that, went to the encampment. So you're directly talking to someone who saw both that kid, because he was there. He's been there every day. He brought pepper spray, and he was collaborating with the fucking cops, mind you. Okay? Aren't there little videos? There are clips. No. Those are improperly framed videos from a dude who keeps going up to the encampment and trying to go into the encampment and being blocked from going into the encampment for obvious reasons, for good reason. Okay, claiming that he's actually being disrupted on his way to campus. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. That kid also wears like an IDF t-shirt and is always rolling around with people in his group that are wearing IDF t-shirts. You're desperately coping. Am I? Does it seem like I'm coping? Did I stutter? I know exactly what the counter propaganda is. I think you're the one who's coping. Why the fuck is there an encampment built on a goddamn college campus anyway? It's called protesting on public space. It is the law. If you don't like it, you can fucking leave the United States of America, goddammit. I'm sick and tired of having these kinds of conversations with these un-American cowards. Okay? How easily you are duped by one fucking clip chimp. You can't build an encampment wherever you want. Where should they protest? Yes, you can absolutely build an encampment in the middle of the fucking college. If you can't do any you're basically saying, I don't want you to protest. That's it, which is un-American. I thought this was America. Yeah, he literally said, I want to go to class and use that interest in the video because there were other interests. Exactly. Oops, you got clapped by Fossabot for spamming it. Not if the college tells you you can't. I know, brother. I know. It's bullshit. Okay? It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. It's public property. They're paying tuition. They absolutely are well within their right. These are the same fucking colleges, by the way, that literally allow Westboro Baptist Church psychopaths to go on to college campus and scream at the students that they're going to hell because they're all F words. Okay? It's not public. It is public. You're wrong. It is a public university. You are wrong. You literally are demonstrably wrong. And you are confidently wrong. It is so ridiculous. And even if it wasn't public, it still doesn't change the reality, by the way. It's ridiculous. Would you welcome some protesters in your mansion? Dude, I'm the protester in my mansion, okay? I am. Did they come to your house? Are they protesting inside of your house? Or are they actually setting up an encampment at the school that they go to in the lawn? Do you find that there's a significant difference between your own personal house that you live inside of with your family versus the public space? Also, I have welcomed some protesters at my mansion, ironically enough. Not only myself, but also others as well. These are not good arguments, okay? These are not good arguments at all. And they're getting increasingly stupid. They're getting increasingly dumber and dumber as time goes on. Anyway, let's continue.
The protesters, that was the pop, pop, pop that you just heard there. Those folks were sheltering behind a barricade. Because again, this is live pictures coming into the newsroom right now where you see, looks like hundreds of police officers in full riot gear now holding up weapons at those protesters.
I know they can restrict where you protest on public property. I'm saying that that's fucked up. They obviously are demonstrably doing that right now. They can declare an encampment or any kind of protest to be unlawful and give a lawful order to disperse. That doesn't make it right. You have to look at what the students are doing, what the students are saying, what the protest is about, okay? And talk about the issue on the boundaries of morality. But there is certainly a legal defense for this as well under the First Amendment, for the record.
Carter Evans is at UCLA watching it all go down. Carter, good morning.
A very tense moment here, Vlad. Let me show you what's going on.
Should protesters be anonymous, masked, and never face any consequences? I think that the reason why these protesters were masking is pretty apparent. There's two reasons for it. Like I've said, if you watch my coverage on this, you would know. It's one, for accessibility purposes. People are still getting COVID. There's immunocompromised protesters on the college campus. They want to protect them. This is like a petri dish for fucking a litany of diseases, including but not limited to COVID, obviously, when you have a bunch of people standing in an area amongst themselves. But not only that, the other reason is because a lot of these organizations like Stop Anti-Semitism and whatnot very clearly are trying to dox these students for the crime of exercising their First Amendment rights against the foreign nation that we're funding and facilitating the genocide that they're conducting. So obviously it makes perfect sense to want to maintain your anonymity when you got groups like the Canary Mission trying to desperately dox these fucking students and penalize them further. So I think it's perfectly valid for them to wear masks in this regard. The fact that people are upset about that is ridiculous. You quite famously relied on sources to push for the invasion of Iraq that refused to identify themselves publicly. You went to jail for it. Judith Miller. Columbia protesters, if you're so proud of what you're doing, why are you covering your faces, is what she said. That's why so many of these fucking goddamn boomers are running around. So many of these goddamn boomers are running around talking about how, like, they need to be unmasked. They need to be doxxed instantaneously. There's a Rutgers update. President Holloway has agreed to 8 of the 10 demands given by Rutgers SJP and the students in the encampment. Most notably, the demands for total divestment and the termination of his partnership with Tel Aviv University are things not in the president's control. Thus, the president has agreed to a future negotiation meeting with 5 students from the chapter and what I believe is an advisory board so long as the students took down the tents by 4 p.m. After an hour-long discussion, the students decided to close the encampment to secure their 8 demands and bargain directly for the latter 2 in a future meeting with the Joint Committee on Investment. Anyway, every counter basically is, why is that Rosa Parks woman sitting in the front of the bus? She's been asked to leave. Simple rules. They're the liberals MLK warns about, who care more about order than justice. Exactly. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Okay? Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. And many white moderates, liberals, as a matter of fact, as MLK put forward in his letter from Birmingham jail, stand in the face of justice and say, I'll put a timeline on your emancipation. From where I'm standing, things don't seem to be that bad. Now, while liberals desperately claim that they love good trouble and talk about all the good trouble that occurred during the civil rights movement, whenever there's an active civil rights movement occurring in the country currently, they demand violent retribution from the state that goes directly against the First Amendment principles that are supposed to be enshrined in the Constitution. So I need everyone to understand something here, okay? Every single person that fantasizes about where they would be in historic times, what they would be doing throughout history in moments where pivotal things happened and history changed for the better, whether it be the abolition of slavery, whether it be the civil rights movement, whether it be the apartheid movement against apartheid South Africa, whether it be the movement against the Vietnam War, or whether it be the movement against the Iraq War. You're doing that right now. Aaron Bushnell was absolutely right. You're doing exactly what you would be doing. So think about that. Okay? Think about that next time you learn something new about these based protesters of the past. Because if you're siding with the cops right now, if you're siding with the cops currently, in this very moment, you'd be siding with the authorities back then too. That's it. On unlawful assembly, perhaps Shadow should be reminded about one of the British laws that the U.S. rebelled against, the Riot Act. Sounds a lot like declaring unlawful assembly. Yeah, this nation was built on those principles, okay? An intifada against the British monarchy. So yeah, to those who say fuck around and find out, to these students peacefully demonstrating and saying like this foreign nation that is doing unimaginable cruelty, killing fucking tens of thousands of babies, okay? It needs to be put an end to. It needs to stop. If that is the fuck around part, I don't know what to tell you. I really hope that people that are coming in here today to listen to what I have to say can understand the things that I'm saying, because one day something that you hold near and dear to you will be taken away by the government, and you will want to defend your civil liberties. And you don't want the government to react this way. I promise you. Okay? It is rather ironic that we're having this conversation when many of the chatters that are cheering on the police, for example, probably do not feel so happy about women's bodily autonomy being taken away from them. Maybe some of you don't give a shit about that, but loved ones in your life certainly do. Okay? And when you take it to the streets and when you try to peacefully demonstrate against this very same government, your own local governments, for taking increasingly restrictive actions against those who want to make a medical decision, criminalizing abortion, criminalizing women's bodily autonomy in this country, when they come for you in the exact same way, do not be shocked. There's a little poem about this from Nazi Germany, as a matter of fact. You know? There's a reason why we study genocides. There's a reason why we study the Holocaust, the reason why we study fascism, because history does often repeat. Even if it doesn't directly repeat, it surely rhymes, right? First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. That's it. So remember that when you actively agitate against these protesters. There's perhaps a reason why so many Holocaust survivors are actively protesting in the United States of America against Israel's actions and getting brutalized for it as well, by the way. They lived through it. They see it. LAPD started to roll in last night, and they stopped at the north checkpoint before retreating. Random moves to get the crowd scattered. As they rolled in, people screamed at them for what happened last night. I learned a lot about the students actually not impeding access to classes. The only thing I've missed is the explanation for property damage. Not trolling, I'm genuinely dumb. Isn't that where they can call the protest unlawful? Yes. They can also say that this protest is now declared unlawful and demand that they disperse. Okay? We have a shit ton of laws that are technically used against lawful protests all the time. This does not... Like, using the law, the letter of the law, in this kind of regard to defend police actions is ridiculous. The thing that I'm trying to explain to everyone right now is that protests are, of course, going to be disruptive and sometimes even go above and beyond, way more than these guys were doing. Okay? Throughout history, we here in the United States of America, even from the inception with our bourgeois revolution, have rebelled against unjustifiable laws. Okay? Legality is no substitute for morality. There are, of course, going to be a shit ton of laws that are completely ridiculous. Laws that defend the current order. Laws that are designed specifically so the militant, violent organs of the state can come in and do a show of force and brutalize those who actually break the law. One of the greatest examples historically is obviously freeing slaves. It was illegal to free slaves. It was very legal to have slaves. Do you look back at history and say, well, they broke the law? Those people who participated in the act of abolition, who participated in the act of emancipation. So property damage is moral. Depending on what we're talking about, it can be, certainly. But if you are using property damage, which, by the way, what property damage is occurring here, I do not know. I guess like the fact that they set up encampments is property damage now. It's damage to the green lawn. Is that what it is? A blade of grass was left disturbed, which obviously means the police need to come in and fuck up the grass way further. I mean, property damage is a hilarious reason. For example, in Hamilton Hall, Columbia University students took over the Hamilton Hall as they had done historically in 1968 and 1985 and many others in 1995 as well, in many other instances. Columbia University students broke 2 windows to enter Hamilton Hall. This was seen as property damage that was unimaginable and unjustifiable in the eyes of Columbia University, which allowed Columbia University to bring in the police. They spent millions of dollars and destroyed every fucking room and every fucking door and pretty much all the windows in an effort to violently apprehend hundreds of students. They lied and said that there were outside agitators. They lied and said these students were vandalizing Hamilton Hall, and then they turned around and vandalized it infinitely worse. You do not have an issue with property damage. You have an issue with what the protest is saying. But you are too cowardly in many instances to reckon with that or to openly state what your genuine opinion is, so you turn around and try to desperately grab onto anything and everything you can. That's it. The police last night did infinitely more property damage and actual damage to the students than the students ever did. and it still doesn't matter. Let's continue. The LAPD took over a corner on the other side of the occupation to hold up for now. Might seem random, but I think the police are trying to divide the crowd and wear people out before 1 a.m. So far, that's the rumor mill says eviction time will be. By the way, trespassing in and of itself, especially on a university building, is also definitionally a part of peaceful protest. We have just completely warped our understanding of what peaceful protest is. It's disruptive, but it's still peaceful. What we think is peaceful protest is basically, I guess, going out and quietly whispering to your friends that, like, hey guys, actually, what Israel's doing is kind of fucked up. Okay? That's straight up 1984 shit. You know what I mean? Peaceful protest does not have to be within the boundaries of law. You can still engage in peaceful acts of civil disobedience. People's understanding of what is permissible in the form of protest and what's not permissible has been greatly warped. Not blocking the whole uni, come on, Hasan. There was never a single protester that blocked the entire university. You are wrong. You should be more worried about blocking the top of the hour ad break by subscribing for $5 or for free. Okay? That's right. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. And if you want to block the top of the hour ad break, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with Twitch Prime. The most civil way that you can no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Yeah, every single civil disobedience demonstration was technically illegal at the time. That didn't change that. They didn't change the reality that it was morally righteous, it was just, and it was valid. And it's taught in schools as though it was awesome. And I'm glad that they did that. So what the fuck are you doing? ACAP for Cutie, thank you for the 10 community gifted subs. Like you say, you don't even want peaceful protests. You complain that the protests are loud. Like that's the point where there's something being loud is equal to violence. Yeah. The way that we understand what kind of protests are permissible at this point is basically just like, I don't want anyone to ever, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to ever like reconsider my current stances. If I do, then it's bad and it's wrong. And the police should come and take care of these guys for making me feel a certain type of way about my defense. Okay. It's ridiculous. Illegal. Hasan, I'm a student at Dartmouth and was the protest last night at the Green. Beyond showing support of these protests, what else can students do to put more pressure into school to divest? Or what would be most helpful to support Palestine? What organization of the students would be the best? I think SJP is pretty good. Students for Justice for Palestine. JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, is pretty good. Look to your local DSA chapters. Democratic Socials for America. Democratic Socials of America. But yeah, anyway, let's continue.
One end of the encampment right here, and you can see you've got some protesters here facing off with police. As we look up to the steps there, that's where the encampment is, and that's where the activity is right now. Every once in a while, you'll hear an explosion. That's police officers firing those rubber bullets or tear gas into the encampment. There are hundreds of police officers here. There are hundreds of people inside this encampment, along with hundreds more who have come to support them and form a human chain outside here. So it is really a standoff of sorts, at least on this side, while police clear out the campers inside. And this has been going on for more than 2 hours. Police dressed in riot gear faced off with protesters as they attempted to clear an encampment that's been set up here at the UCLA campus. Those officers could be seen clashing with demonstrators as they conducted arrests. Earlier in the night, LAPD tried to enter the encampment, but were quickly pushed back and retreated. The development signifies an escalation as officers for hours stood by as protesters vowed to stay and yelled at police. It comes one night after law enforcement was criticized for its delayed response to the brutal violence on campus. Some demonstrators rammed barricades, used pepper spray, and threw fireworks at the pro-Palestinian encampment.
They seem to want to terrorize us.
UCLA senior Yusuf said he needed 14 staples in his head after he was hit by a traffic cone and beaten with a piece of wood.
I thought the police would be our saving rescue. Instead, what ended up happening was we saw the police forming in a large group outside, seemingly watching the events unfold.
Police stood by for nearly 2 hours during that.
Yeah, that's what the university allowed to happen, by the way. They called in the cops, and the cops just sat there and fucking waited. Those were outside. Those were the real outside agitators, by the way. Those were the real outside agitators. They came onto campus. They didn't actually go there. They were coordinated. They had one goal, and that was to beat the shit out of the peaceful anti-genocide protesters. That was what their goal was. And the cops stood next to them. Would love to see Asmongold defend this. I don't think he knows that that happened. Like, because why should he know? It's not like mainstream media is constantly talking about this. If you're even like paying attention even a little bit, the only thing you see is basically like, oh, these guys deserve it. These guys need to get fucking violently suppressed. They're being bad. Oh, stop defending your dumbass colleague. I do not care for Asmongold's perspective on this matter any more than he would care about my perspective on World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? Hey, the needle drop. Thank you for the raid.
That confrontation, 15 people were reported injured, including one hospitalization.
Where was everybody? The whole world was watching. Where were they?
What do you think about the police response to the increase in violence?
There was no police response until very late.
Law enforcement activity is typically the last resort.
Sam Vinograd is a former top counterterrorism official.
As individuals are allowed to engage in unauthorized activity for attenuated periods, the possibility that things are going to turn violent unfortunately increases.
And so we have police here still making this effort to get inside the camp.
I think the only reason why people keep bringing up Asmongold in this situation is not because like they care about my takes in general. And I think a lot of us do this. It's mostly because you just want like a little bit of drama, you know? Because Asmongold's opinion on this, and I haven't even seen it, I suspect is identical to like 90% of the boomers that we watch in mainstream media. But because he's on this platform saying these things, you're like tunneled in to his perspective. You know what my opinions are. You know what what I have to say. Not you deflecting. This is not deflecting. This is just genuinely addressing an issue that I always foresee in the realm of political commentary. And I already did cover the whole like fuck around and find out element. I think it's unconscionable. Like I already think it's fucking ridiculous. Hopefully you'll be able to get your clip off and post it in the r/Asmongold subreddit eventually, chatter.
Camp. Let's take a look at some of the live video that's coming in right now, and you can see police making their moves, trying to breach the barricade area. Campers had been reinforcing that all Tuesday. You could hear the power tools and the hammers, and they were also using zip ties to tie the fence together, anything to try and keep this barricade together and keep police out. But you can see they have made their way in now.
James O'Brien says something really interesting earlier. He said that Israel has solidified a generation of young people never, ever supporting them ever again as a direct result of their actions, and this shit just solidifies it. I agree. You're kind of deflecting with that he's a big streamer with a big influence on him to the same as us. No, because I'm talking about something infinitely bigger than one Twitch streamer. Yes, in comparison to a random chatter who has similar takes, and the way that I deal with a random chatter versus Asmongold is always going to be different, and I explained why. But we're also we're covering a serious big boy issue that pertains to fundamental American values and principles like the First Amendment and its protection. We're talking about police violence. We're talking about mainstream fucking media and its coverage on these kinds of things. The reason why I do not care all that much about Asmongold's opinion on the matter and instead am covering it in the exact same way that I cover these issues all the time is because I think this is the best way to cover this issue. It might not be it might not be within your realm of interest. You probably want me to take down a Twitch streamer, YouTuber doing political commentary. See, there you go. They're already trying to do it anyway. Oh shit. Oh, you're underneath me. I was like, what the fuck am I pressing? Hello, baby. Anyway, let's continue. Every derailment is taking time away from me covering fun shit like the Kendrick Lamar diss.
Now they've been using pepper spray, they've been using tear gas, they've been using rubber bullets, and they are now making arrests. As for where I am right now, I am on the other end of this encampment. We've got a big, large contingent of the California Highway Patrol right here waiting to make their move in here.
These pictures are remarkable coming into us right now, into the newsroom, when you see what looks like dozens, if not perhaps hundreds, of police officers in full riot gear, and they're trying to get on to clear this encampment. And again, Americans haven't seen scenes like this since the 1960s, when college campuses erupted over protests in Vietnam. And now we're seeing this again play out on college campuses all across the country. It looks like now.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think is more violent of a presence on campus, dude? Police doing this to peaceful anti-genocide protesters, or the anti-genocide protesters saying like, Israel, cut it out?
Now the police are actually moving towards those barricades that protesters have set up. You can see those pieces of plywood that protesters are using to try and force the police back. They seem to be inching, inch by inch, to try to move these protesters off, but it's going to be very, very difficult. And of course, the fear is that somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Or even worse.
And when you look at the protesters, some are speaking and saying that we are protesting peacefully, and we are looking for support from the police. And then others are saying that the police are not offering that. They are actually doing the opposite.
The difficulty.
Yeah, I wonder which one is true. Obviously, it's not my job in the media to look at that, look at these fucking images and make an assessment.
Of course, is that when you hear police officials, and we heard that yesterday.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Look at this fucking little limp dick booger eating Nazis fucking fan base coming in here, dude. Look, coming in here and being like, I don't know, common Trump W. I don't know much about that Nick Fuentes guy, but it seemed like he was saying valid things on Twitter today, but people kept calling him a Nazi. Fucking been in this community for a long enough time, dude. As a black man, I don't give a fuck about this. Wait, since I'm black, I'm also pushing an agenda. Certainly. Yeah. If you were a black man, if you actually were a black man and not a white boy who is possibly a neo-Nazi, you, I suspect, would know that Nick Fuentes is considered miscegenation to be akin to marrying a dog. That's right. He is a Nazi. He has denied the Holocaust, and also quite literally has said that a black man and a white woman getting married and reproducing is like a white woman having sex with an animal. He is a neo-Nazi. Do you think that if that guy is a genuine person fighting for a good cause, or a racist anti-Semite who's taking advantage of the opportunity? I don't understand how he's not on our side at the moment, but people who fight the good cause condemn him because he is a fucking neo-Nazi opportunist. He wants to genocide all the fucking Muslims. He also just happens to hate Jewish people. Another LeBron hater being outed as a white supremacist. Elon Musk reinstated his Twitter. Yeah, because Elon Musk is also a Nazi. That's awesome, man. Thanks. Elon Musk responding to Goya Bean Groiper. Bring Nick Fuentes back on Twitter. Very well. He will be reinstated, provided he does not violate the law, and let him be crushed by the comments and community notes. It is better to have anti-whatever out in the open to be rebutted than grow simmering in the darkness. Unless the community notes are under one of my fucking idiotic tweets, in which case I will be personally banning those community notes. Everyone on Twitter and all the gray names today? Oh, yeah. Great. He literally suspended Mandela's grandson a few days ago. Bro's going on a historic run. Do you think it does you any good by calling everyone and everything a Nazi? I agree with you, but it still comes off weird in my opinion. Brother, this dude that we are talking about is a literal Nazi. He has denied the Holocaust, denied the 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust, literally has said that a black man and a white woman having sex is akin to a white woman fucking an animal. Okay? What does someone need to do to be called a Nazi by your standards at this point? And I have mentioned time and time again that I use Nazi as a catch-all term for all different types of fascist opinions, including the Israeli government and its defenders, because Zionism is a fascist ideology. So, having said that, I don't think that you actually agree with me. Okay? I don't mean this guy, I mean in general. Never heard of this person. Okay. So why do you reflexively feel the need to defend a person that you've never heard of against someone that you supposedly agree with? Why is that your first opinion is that, like, I must be exaggerating when I call someone a Nazi without ever examining what my positions are and why I call certain people Nazis? Motherfuckers out here being like, well, Adolf Hitler, I mean, would you call him a Nazi, really? I mean, did he ever say that he is a Nazi? A big part of the reason why I call a lot of people who disagree with me Nazis is because I disagree with Nazis and they disagree with me. So that's, you know, unfortunate for them, I guess.
From New York City Mayor Eric Adams that there are outside agitators who are taking part in some of these demonstrations. It's very difficult for police to know who the outside agitators are. Look at this.
It's not that difficult. It's mostly the people that are trying to beat on the fucking students, which, by the way, in this instance, it's the police themselves. They are the outside agitators.
It's dark. There are lights. Most
people are covered.
Being deployed. Exactly. People have their faces covered. So it becomes really, really difficult. And
oh, so if they didn't have their faces covered, you could tell just by looking at their faces if they're outside agitators or not?
Of course, the danger, as you see this police officer trying to tear down a barricade that presumably protesters have put up, the danger is that somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, a lot of these protests happening across the country.